shape that is not, even when you have an apple like this, which is quite rounded and taut on its outside, you can see, it still is not a perfect circle. It's not a little globe. Yeah. An apple could obviously is much more rounded, taut. The pear, and when you think about it, all of that information is actually agricultural information, where it has, it is talking about, it's even age of fruit information, the tautness of the skin of anything that you do. You know, when you think about it, I mean, you close your eyes and you know what a good pear or apple is to pick out in a store, as opposed to one that's starting to lose its. Where it says it all began with an apple. Apples are sort of iconic. They are this information of Adam and Eve, fruits, harvest, autumn. They have lots of associations, and you can use all of that. Or not so much use it, but when I put something out like this, I think there's all these layers and layers of information which you can do nothing with, ostensibly do nothing, or it just hovers there as the apple has many, many different reasons and interpretations and symbolism, whatever. I have put arrays of stuff, including my demos with different papers. Here is my array. Over there is more array. There are these, that's from another class. To move this, what I've set up is similar, you know, this tumbling from a folded cloth. And the folds, the cloth, they are not necessarily, any way you want to do it, of course, is fine, but they are not necessarily to challenge you to see if you can do drapery and folds and get it just right. It is to use the information of the, and here, the information of these folds, where there's maybe a shadowing, or where there's we talked about this before. I don't always have to work in a Demuthian way, but what he does there is a wonderful thing, and in a way should set everyone free about drapery or folds, because he's using the information, he's using the meaning of it, not necessarily the drapery. Not that he doesn't do fine drapery too, or things, but most of it, I bet, he gets the information and he plays with it, or plays with it. So that's what I'm trying to emphasize. For some people, I thought it would be great if anyone wants to put the apples into an environment. You know, keep your inspiration here. You don't have to. And here are apples in environment, frescoes from Rome. You know, very decorative. Just playing with using these fruits and other things in the thing. This is a piece I did, which is a very bad, it's very fuzzy. It's not quite that fuzzy, but thank you. But these apples are in an environment, again, much like Thomas Worthington Whitbridge. These are probably 1870s or something. And he was a landscape painter, not somebody I know particularly. And he has simulated an environment, I mean, very much like that, sort of like that. In fact, when I did my painting, I felt very much I was doing a very old-fashioned painting that, you know, with a sort of modern tinge. And this is what he's done. He's combined a sky, another thing we're thinking about today, with simulated, I can't even tell, it looks like mountains, but it may just be land and his own versions of the branches. Look at any of these, you know, just to keep your thoughts open. Cézanne. This is a wonderful piece, somebody I'd never heard of, Patrick Henry Bruce. I think that's about 1911. Morgan Russell, that's a fun piece. He is the same person who did that. Cézanne did this, Morgan Russell did this. Morgan Russell borrowed Cézanne's painting and spent ages repeating these apples, just working out some of the architecture of Cézanne in his own way. But you could see what he pulled from it. And I'm thinking of you, Amy. You know, your grapes last week, you know, how you worked things through with a sort of a linear thing going through the grapes. Something in there. And Susan Abbott, Steichen, and that, and then there are things over there. So those are things to think about. I think we can never underestimate how much manipulation you should do of whatever you're seeing. There's not a painter that isn't true of, except for maybe the photorealists who basically are doing what's there. But you know, the things that people chose to do or chose not to do, light that he chose to play with, even if sometimes it might not make any sense, you know, in terms of nature, you might think, now where on earth is that coming from? In fact, there's probably a heck of a lot of different light sources. It's okay, because it is, as you said, it works there. Joan, who just came in, I put Joan's piece from last week up because something I think is wonderful to do and think about with fruits is, and Cézanne is perfect with this, there is something in Joan's here, and there's something in Cézanne here, and in these, and even in, what's his name, Morgan Russell, and Morgan Russell in a different mode, a watercolor mode from one, where the artist is caressing the fruit, caressing in terms of shape, and, you know, a sensual kind of thing where you are getting information and working with it. So that's something I think to remember, no matter how you work. That yesterday, because the skies have been so beautiful during the day, even during the midday, with wonderful cloud forms, that if anyone just is aching to get out there and get a little plein air, I did that yesterday about the time, you know, about 1:30 or something. I went down to the below here, the park, right? You just don't go down the river. And I just did not a great painting at all, but played with skies. This is not, actually I did not do that then, but this is more or less what I did do. It's just a little plein air thing. And I started with being inspired by the sky, not necessarily copying the sky, because that's very hard to do, and maybe you don't want to even do that. But just sort of getting my information from the sky, and then I went on and played with it. And funnily enough, and I almost never do something like that, I decided to put the little Canada geese in, which are driving me nuts. And what I ended up liking and having most fun with was the rocks. So it goes to show, you go for one thing, you come out of it with another. And the other thing in terms of skies, if you decide you want to put your apples in some kind of environment, I did the same thing here. I started with sort of a sky, and then I had these left over from last week. And I promised Amy I wouldn't bring them to peers again, but you don't have to look at them. I started doing this as though the bowl were in front of a window or something. And it's another way of breaking into a painting, to where you think, you just start with a little sky. If you're lucky enough to think, hey, this is so much fun, you just really play with a little sky, and then you start adding whatever you want in front of it, around it, or, and it keeps it fun.